Hello, welcome to Left in the South podcast. I'm your host, David. I'm with my good friend here, Caleb. How are you doing, man?
Doing great.
So, man, there's a lot, honestly, I feel like there's a lot to talk about. You know, the debate just happened. You know, we're back at school, and you had a little bit of a controversy on Twitter recently.
Oh, are we talking about that?
Yeah,
I already forgot.
Yeah, but before we get into that, I just want to thank everyone who's been supporting the podcast recently, and for the tremendous support we've been receiving on Twitter, SoundCloud, and everywhere we distribute the podcast. It's honestly been crazy. Like our average plays are like 10 episode. We're like 9 plays away from 200 plays total.
Yeah, and only 10 episodes out. Honestly, that's pretty good.
9 episodes.
Oh, right, that's now. True. We're recording the 10th episode.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let's talk about what's been going on in school. I mean, how you been doing?
Honestly, school's kicking my ass, dude. I'm taking a ton of economics classes. I actually want to talk about this a little bit because economics as a major, I feel like is kind of a joke. You know, because I don't know, it's like economics is kind of the major that teaches you why capitalism is like the best and immutable.
Yeah, for sure. It's really biased.
Yes, it is extremely like there are a lot of assumptions that are made that I don't necessarily agree with, and it feels kind of weird taking these classes knowing that I'm practically only taking these classes so that I know better how to critique the system of capitalism, not actually to learn anything, because
True.
I don't mean to sound like some like genius, because I'm definitely not. I'm just a normal guy. But like anyone can do this, I promise. Literally go right now to your library and buy books about like Marxist theory, socialism, capitalism, and like just seriously consume them and pay a little bit of attention. And everything that I'm learning right now in my university accredited college course, you can easily learn for free from a library. And it's not, I promise, it's not some kind of
I feel like that bodes true to a lot of courses.
I agree. And like there's some things that you need to like practice, like math and I don't know, computer science, stuff that you need to practice to get good at. But I would say that that economics is not one of those things. I think that any person, if they seriously apply themselves, can have a university level understanding of economics without paying a single dollar.
Have the degree.
Yes, exactly. The only reason
the degree is the most important part.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
basically, you're paying for a piece of paper.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm taking Japanese as well, which is just totally kicking my ass, dude. Who would have known learning a foreign language is extremely difficult?
Yeah.
So
I've been doing pretty well. A lot of the classes I'm taking are actually just retake courses, because when I was working at a casino, I decided to stop going to school. So I have like a 0.8 GPA, and they took me off financial aid. So to get that back, I'm taking these courses again. So basically, and like I did like the first 4 months of classes. So I already did all the work for like the whole week and like the first day of classes. Because like I already knew what I was doing, and I was so fucking bored in all my classes. Because I'm like, fuck, I've heard this somewhere before.
Well, hey man, I mean, at least you're going through the motions, you know.
Yeah,
that's really the main part of it. It's just showing up and actually doing everything.
Yeah, and just gotta get that financial aid back, because school is expensive.
Oh hell yeah! Are you liking it though? Like now that you're back?
Oh yeah, I'm like 100% trying to like do my best, and I'm like, I won't sell for anything less than an A in these courses.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad, dude. I'm excited for you. I love talking to people that are going to college. I guess just because it's easy for me to relate, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's cool. I'm excited for you.
Thanks. Appreciate it, dude. But now that that's out of the way, school. Let's get into this little Twitter controversy you had.
Well, okay, so we're gonna talk about this later, but of course everyone knows like the most recent Democratic debate happened about 2 nights ago.
I believe so.
Yeah, these heavy hitting intellectuals were sundowning on live television, and we all got to watch a bunch of old people just yell things at each other that didn't vaguely make sense and
constantly going overtime.
Yeah, exactly. And basically,
thank you.
it was a glorified political hit piece on Bernie Sanders. It was embarrassing to watch, and it was pretty much a waste of time. But basically, a lot of Twitter warriors came out of the woodworks to defend Elizabeth Warren because she made some comments that we're going to cover fully later in the show. But anyway, I decided to get into a really dumb argument with a blue check mark on Twitter about Elizabeth Warren. And yeah, people were not happy. They were very upset with me.
Yeah, apparently he was on the Arrow. I stopped watching the Arrow after season 3 because it just got so goddamn boring.
Yeah, I don't know. I never watched the Arrow, but the only thing that pissed me off about what he said, the only reason I felt the need to like be epic at him, is just I don't know. He said Warren is the only one willing to defend like these things that make life good, and then I was like, how about we vote for the person who is willing to actually change the economy and make it work for the average person? And he said one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, basically saying like, are you kidding me? The economy is doing great. Look at the stock market. Look at everything. Look at how people are doing. Unemployment is at an all-time low. And I'm like, only a fucking out-of-touch blue check mark ass actor can make a statement like that. Like, he's so out of touch. I don't understand. The stock
market being up for the normal person, it means absolutely nothing.
Less than nothing, because that means that people are going to pay less attention to you because they think that the economy is doing well. So if you're failing, it must be some kind of moral shortcoming on your part rather than, you know, a systemic issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I want to talk more about the debate in detail rather than like, you know, the Twitter.
Yeah, that picture you sent was funny though.
It was funny.
Fuck off, blue check. Fuck off, check mark.
Yeah, everyone follow me on Twitter at Dougly Thinks if you want some hot controversial takes. You know, anti-Zionist,
spicy,
pro Maoism, anti-landlord, that kind of shit. You know, follow me on Twitter. But anyway, let's get into the
before
next
before we head into this the Democratic debate, I just want to let everyone know that you know, the Twitter account Left in the South podcast, you know, we're going full in on being fucking leftists on Twitter. You know, for a while I was trying to hold off because we were trying to get Twitter ads, but unfortunately, you know,
their algorithm is too fucking strong, dude. They know.
We've been trying to work with Twitter. We were trying to work Twitter. I've been getting in contact with support. I know I did everything in my power to get us a promoted tweet on Twitter, and it's not gonna happen. No. So look out for those fucking hot takes that hopefully we can both agree on the on the Twitter account.
Yeah, David and I try to use that account for things that we both agree on, and then if we have a hot take,
on our own we take it to our own personal
a little
accounts.
Too hot of a take.
Yeah, I was about to type something spicy. I'm like, wait, I should hold back on this one. leave it for my account. But yeah, I mean, now let's get into it. The Democratic debate.
God, it was just such a shit show, man. Like I want everyone to go right now on Twitter and just search like the questions about stuff Never like that. Warren. Like, you can see these things that, like these questions that they asked Bernie Sanders at the debate. It was embarrassing. I mean, things like how, you know, Vice President Biden, how is Bernie Sanders' plan not going to bankrupt the country? Like, just the way that they framed these questions, they were all versus Bernie. No one else was taking any heat from the host at CNN. It was just so embarrassing. Yeah. And then, do you want to talk a little bit about the sexism comment that Warren pushed? Why don't you explain to people what this was?
Let's get like this. I feel like this is one of the more bigger things that happened at the debate.
Yeah.
So they asked Bernie. I thought it was a pretty off-topic question. You know, the few days before the debate, there was some rumors going on that like Bernie Sanders says that he doesn't think that a woman can run for president or even become the president.
Allegedly, he told that to Elizabeth Warren in a private conversation.
And CNN broke the news on this. And they were basically asked Bernie live on TV, like why he said this, and of course he, you know, said that he didn't say that. And they asked Warren soon after, what do you think about Bernie saying that you couldn't win a woman can't run for president?
Yeah. Immediately after, literally, the host in one breath.
After he defends himself.
Exactly. In one breath, he says, Senator Sanders, like, how can you answer for the fact that you said this to Elizabeth Warren? And he says, of course I didn't say that. I would never say that. In the 90s, in the 80s, I specifically said I thought that a woman could win the presidency, which was a controversial opinion back then. And in 2015, I personally asked Elizabeth Warren to run for president before I myself decided to run for president. And then when I lost the nomination, I campaigned for Hillary Clinton, who then went on to win 3 million votes in the popular vote, or 3 million more votes than Donald Trump in the popular vote. He said all those things, and then immediately after that, the host turns to Elizabeth Warren and says, "So, Elizabeth Warren, how did you feel when Bernie Sanders said that a woman could not be president?" It was so embarrassing, man.
I feel like no matter how well he would have defended himself for that question, they would have still asked her that.
Yeah.
Like, even if he said, I have proof, and like we just posted on Twitter, like what's really good, what really went down and what happened.
Right.
They would have still asked Warren that question.
Absolutely.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
And the thing about it is CNN broke that story, and their source is Elizabeth Warren. So, it was leaked, and it really isn't anyone. But let's just ask ourselves this: if two people have a private conversation in a room together, and no one else is in the room, and ask yourself this: would Bernie Sanders leak a story about himself saying that a woman could not be president? Let's just ask ourselves if that would be likely to happen. I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
So who else would leak a story like that? It must have been either Warren herself or a staffer that somehow found out about this statement and misunderstood it, or whatever misunderstanding took place.
We need to cancel Bernie.
Exactly, and they decided to run with it. And let's not pretend like they did not know what was going on. I mean, I was saying it while we were watching it. Like, she was literally shaking. You could tell.
Yeah.
Like, she was nervous
when that
because
question
she
came
was
up, she was
lying.
like,
She was visibly shaking when she was saying these things, because I think everyone, including her, knows it's total fucking bullshit.
Lying Liz, baby.
Lying Liz. God.
Native American,
and
by
then
the way.
oh my God, and then the worst part, did you see the end when she just refuses to shake his hand?
Yeah.
And then, of course, did you see the clip that came out after that of what they said after?
Yeah, I saw that you posted it in Discord.
Yeah.
I was shocked that they had that, like the microphones were still recording.
Yeah, because they're still wearing those lapel mics or whatever, so they can still hear them. And Liz walks up to Bernie and says, "So it seems like you just called me a liar on national television." It's like, what the fuck else is he supposed to do if you're making this bold accusation of him on national TV?
And she still has the microphone on. Like,
she knows.
Obviously, exactly. She wants this to be heard. This is being recorded. Obviously, the Bernie planners made the best play of the day by saying, no, I'm done with this. I'm not talking about this now.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, if you just put yourself in his shoes too, like, that kind of has to hurt, right? Like, I mean, it's not uncommon for him to be not liked in Washington, but still, I mean, someone who ostensibly seemed to be kind of his progressive ally, like his closest ideological companion in this race, just basically stabs him in the back on CNN in front of everyone, and then refuses to shake his hand at the end. Oh God, so embarrassing. Anyone who supports Warren after that, like how do you do that? How do you run with that narrative?
Obviously they follow her blindly.
Obviously, but I mean, anyone who takes Sanders' campaign seriously and his history as a legislator, as a senator, as any person in politics, anyone who takes his record seriously knows that he would never make a statement like that. It must have been some misunderstanding or just a total fabrication. I have no idea which, but it has to be one of those, because that is just so out of character for him.
Yeah. And it's like kind of ridiculous that like CNN would even stoop this low. Like, imagine if I made a call into CNN saying Bernie Sanders is actually a fucking Nazi and he hates fucking Jews, and like they wouldn't fucking take that information to heart. Like, obviously it had to be someone important, someone that close to Bernie Sanders,
and it could have only been Bernie Sanders. Like, they're far less careful about criticizing him. There's no legitimacy. And, like, why would they not be careful about this accusation either? Have you, like, I don't know how much, like, media you've kept up with on Sanders' campaign, David, but, like, have you noticed that people will just make these accusations of Sanders that they would never make about other candidates without substantial evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like slandering Sanders is just something that's kind of accepted as being okay because he's like a loony lefty or whatever. But it's totally like past the pale for every other candidate because, you know, oh, it's about respect and like this is the respect economy, the ideas economy. We have to engage with them intellectually, honestly, instead of, you know, silencing them before the debate even happens. But they're too afraid of Sanders to do that. And I don't know, it really just goes to show where the true opposition lies, I think.
Yeah, like CNN, the media, big business, they're scared of Sanders.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because the people are behind him. This is the first candidate where, like, I feel like a lot of the people, you know, modern candidate, where a lot of the, you know, America is behind Sanders.
Yeah, America, and not just America, but it's the workers, the ones who are the ones who produce the things that we need. It's not the corporate investors and the lobbyists and the extremely wealthy people who have traditionally been in control of, you know, this particular position in government, and that scares them. And if you are a Sanders supporter, this should excite you because if they're fighting this hard and this boldly, it means that they know that he can fucking win this thing, and they're trying everything to make it not happen.
Honestly, it's disgusting how blatant the questions that were directed towards Sanders were just attacks on his campaign.
Yeah. I love the Twitter hashtag though that came up out of it, Never Warren. Did you notice how the Twitter algorithm or whatever, if you click on that hashtag, like the entire first page of tweets is all these like centrist fucks basically saying defending Warren. Basically saying all these Bernie bros using this Never Warren hashtag are totally dividing the party. It's like, okay, well, first of all, fuck you. We want the fucking party to be divided. We don't want this shit in our party. Like, the Democratic Party should shift very far to the left compared to what it is now. So that's fine if we split the party as far as I'm concerned. And
I mean, eventually we would have to go against Warren one day.
Right, exactly. If you want a truly leftist candidate, then you're going to end up having to, you know, have some kind of combat, quote unquote, intellectually speaking, with people that identify as Democrats, because Democrats include people like Joe Biden, people like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't agree with these people on almost anything, but still they could get to call themselves Democrats because we live in this terrible, shitty country with a majoritarian voting system.
Yeah, it just sucks that, like, you know, this is going on with another progressive candidate. Like, if it was against any other candidate, no one would have cared.
Right.
Like, no one would have been like, oh, he's attacking Joe, you know, I'm crying over this. Like, no one would have cared. But it's the other progressive candidate.
It does kind of scare me because I'm worried that any votes that get split in this particular race will end up with a Biden presidency, which is something that I very much don't want to see. Although, speaking of that, though, today you posted some polls in our Discord that really excited me. It seems like there's only been a couple of polls that have come out, and obviously, like we say on every episode, polling is trash and worthless, but it shows what people are talking about at this particular moment. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote for this candidate, doesn't necessarily mean that candidate's going to win, doesn't mean any of that shit, but it means that these people are being talked about in the media, basically, is what polls reflect. And what numbers was Bernie posting up on these polls today?
20%.
20%, and that was up from 18, so that's within the margin of error. So in other words, he remained steady basically even after all this media, you know, slander that he received in that debate the other night. So that's a really good sign, because it means, you know, people like us are out there and they're not falling for this bullshit like they do, like they sometimes tend to, you know. I think people are finally starting to realize, like, it's strange. Why are they only attacking the candidate that I like? Why are they only attacking Bernie? And these kind of stories never come out for anyone else. I think people are starting to realize
going after these people.
Exactly. They have something to lose.
They are shaking in their boots.
Quaking.
Yeah, honestly, it's just a sad thing to see.
Absolutely. And that's really kind of where my Twitter feud came up, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, David, because, you know, you and I had a little short conversation about this. Basically, like, on Twitter, I was telling people, mostly being late epic. Like, I just want to be clear real quick. When I post shit on Twitter, I don't give a fuck about it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's just I'm firing these tweets off. I'm probably drunk and slash or high at the time, and I don't really take it seriously, to be honest. But I'm never gonna say something on there that I don't agree with, but I might say it in a way that is really shitty and mean. And, you know, it's just because I like doing that. It's fun. It's funny, and people get angry, and it's fun to get people angry. Look, I just want to
you got that guy
clarify
so
about that
fucking
shit.
triggered.
Yeah,
He's
but
like, this guy's a Russian Trump bot. Like,
oh, yeah, I love
this
that.
dude on Twitter.
Yeah, I love that shit. But yeah, that's what. But my main argument was on Twitter is basically this: is that if you see yourself as a progressive Democrat voter and you want a progressive candidate to win in the 2020 election, you have no choice but to vote for Sanders. As far as I'm concerned, the Sanders-Warren ideological similarity means that the progressive vote is going to inevitably be split between these two candidates, because Sanders has a ravenous base of people that are not willing to change their vote, that are not willing to compromise on their candidate, whereas Warren supporters are more likely to compromise. That means that his support is almost like a loaded gun. You know what I mean? You have no choice but to vote for Sanders, because if you don't, you're risking a Biden presidency because the progressive vote is split. So if you're worried that Biden is not going to be able to take down Trump, or if, like me and David, you don't agree with Biden's platform in any way and you can't stand to see him in the White House, then you have no choice, practically, but to vote for Bernie Sanders, because otherwise you are going to split the vote and you will be responsible for the election of either Trump or Biden. And you have to come to terms with that and be okay with that. So that's an extra calculation that you need to do when you're deciding who to vote for in your primary in your state, coming up very, very, very soon.
Yeah. Speaking about these polls again, Warren's actually going down in the polls. And what I can hope for now is, like, hopefully they can make up, shake hands, maybe a little peck on the cheek or something, and maybe Warren endorses Sanders. That would be, like, the best thing ever. But I feel like, Warren might have, did a little undercover table negotiations and fucking, is trying to get on that Biden dick.
God, yeah. I mean, the most obvious play right now for Warren would be to try her best. First of all, to win Iowa, win New Hampshire. And barring that, she needs to make a move for a Biden VP spot. Because, I mean, as far as it is right now, it seems like she's less likely to win the nomination. From what I've seen, it's basically between Biden and Sanders. Like, one of the best metrics I like to use is betting websites, because betting websites have a vested interest in making the correct odds for the bet. You know what I mean? They're not technically 100% correct. Obviously, no poll is 100% correct. But I like to look at these because it makes you see where the people who are people who are making money off this, that's what they think, and they really need to be correct on it. So on those websites, I think Bernie and Biden are both, like, equal in terms of their ability to win, and then Warren, of course, is just under both of them. So as far as she's concerned, I think going for a VP spot would not be a bad move, but she's never going to go for Bernie because of this controversy, which makes me upset. Yeah. Because if Warren voters can get encouraged to vote for Biden, then it's going to be all over for Bernie.
Yeah. And, like, the reason why I think Warren supporters, if she decided to drop out, would go to Biden is because, she's a capitalist and she's, like, less on the left than Bernie.
Yeah, and she's a woman. I mean, let's not forget about that. That's an important identity politics for a lot of liberals. Like, they want a woman in the office, regardless of how it is.
Yeah. Honestly, another thing I want to touch on the debates was having Steyer and Klobuchar in the debates instead of Yang. I don't know if I ever got what you wanted to say about this, but honestly, I would have had Yang on there instead of Steyer and Klobuchar. Like, who are these people? They're polling 3%, like 3% and less,
right?
Like, and like, at least Yang is doing like 4 or 5.
And at least Yang has there, like a message, you know what I mean? Steyer, like you were saying during the debate, literally all Steyer did was fucking agree with everyone.
I was live tweeting this debate. I was triggered the entire time.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is Steyer, like, every time Steyer spoke, it was to agree with someone else he was debating against. He's like, oh yes, I agree with Sanders. He's like, oh, I agree with Biden here. And he's like, yes, I agree with Warren. I do believe women can win.
He seemed to have no stances of his own, except when it came to the Middle East. And he's basically like, I would send 3 3,000 more troops to Israel to make sure that Hamas can never gain power in the region in the West Bank or anything like that. It was just weird. It was weird to me.
Businessman.
Exactly. It was weird to me that
when the economics came up, he's like, finally, something I can touch on.
Finally, a fucking market, a foreign market I can exploit. Crazy, man.
I mean, and I feel like they didn't really talk. I really wish they talked about climate change more, but they just had to talk about fucking can a woman actually become president for like 10, 15
sucked so
minutes.
much air out of the room, man. It was such a waste of time. Like, there were so many other topics they could have covered, and they chose not to. God, that was weird. I don't know. Steyer was pretty good on climate change, though, didn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very green guy, and I can appreciate a good environmentalist.
Yeah,
but
I honestly don't. I agree with
Bernie's plan as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Bernie's like Green New Deal is really the
Green Deal.
Yeah, that's the absolute top notch as far as new like climate justice policy goes. But as far as like people getting on stage for one specific issue, like for example, sometimes people in the past have tried their best to get on the debate stage just to talk about things like gun control, for example. And like they know they're explicitly not trying to win the presidency. They're just trying to make it to debates to force people to talk about this one topic. I don't necessarily disagree with that tactic, you know what I mean? As long as you're not actually trying to win the presidency, as long as you drop out before, like, as long as you don't pull votes from candidates who are actually running for presidency, I have no problem with that tactic. Especially if you're like a billionaire and you're trying to be a class traitor and you're trying to like, use your wealth to further your political ideology. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But Steyer didn't have any unique opinions. He already agreed with everyone on stage. So why the fuck is he there?
Yeah, I think Yang on stage would have been a little more. I guess I want to say the word entertaining or something.
Yeah.
He would have been a better person to have on stage than any of these people. I mean, well, Klobuchar.
What about Klobuchar? What do you think about her?
Honestly, I don't know. She was like just super emotional the entire time, and like every time she talked, she always appealed to like people's emotions, and like I don't know. It was kind of weird.
She seemed to be the person who talked the least about policy. She just had all these like flowery words that didn't really mean anything. And I was like keeping my
eye on the speaking times actually.
God,
yeah, they're asking the easiest questions, and then like when they were getting to Bernie Sanders, they hit him with the hard hitting questions. They're like, Bernie, like what are you gonna do when everyone like loses their job in these farming jobs? Like what are you gonna do for them? And he's like, and then gives them the perfect response. And I was like, well, that was a pretty hard question they asked Bernie there. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. And it's like the fucking meme where you ask like a female model from like Miss Universe or whatever, like, how would you solve the Middle East? And then they have 30 seconds to answer. It was ridiculous because every time they asked Bernie a question, he would talk like, just like he does. He's really very eloquent guy, obviously, like usual. But then he would go over like 1 second, and that host with the really pale skin and bold lipstick that sat on the right side of the panel, she would just fucking talk over him for like 5 seconds. She was like, thank you, Mr. Sanders. Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Stop talking now. Miss Klobuchar, we're going to you. But then when Amy would go, Amy would go over
another 20 seconds.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. God, it was terrible.
That was absolutely insane.
Oh, I want to talk about one more thing for Bernie too. Like with his Medicare for All plan, when they asked him about it, which I loved that he got a lot of time to talk about that because it's super important. But the very first thing they asked him was this most ridiculously loaded question ever of how are you not going to bankrupt the country with your Medicare for All plan, which is the most ridiculous question, obviously. And of course, his response was, well, we're taxing 4% of income, excluding the first 29%. That's how we pay for it. The math checks out. Medicare for all all of it can be paid for already. In fact, we're already paying for it, and you're going to save money. And that's what Bernie said. He's like, the average person is actually going to save like half of what they're paying right now on healthcare because we're already overpaying for it. And then the very next question the host asks is, like, how is he gonna pay for it? And then all of the fucking people sit up on stage and just lie and just fucking lie, and they're like, I think Bernie just needs to be honest about how he's gonna pay for it. Where is he gonna get the money? Is he gonna bankrupt the country? He just fucking said it no less than 20 seconds ago. It was unbelievable how they all just fucking lied about that, and I couldn't it hurts my fucking heart to know that the average American probably didn't even catch his fucking line about the 4% thing, and people will still believe that it's not possible, even though every other first world country in the world does it. 33 out of 34 advanced economies has it. We're the only one that doesn't, and we're the richest country in the world. It's fucking unreal. Yeah. It's preposterous, and people should be punished for this. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah. Another thing, they also try to attack him on being a democratic socialist, and
right.
Honestly,
the S
it just
word.
pisses me off. Yeah, a lot of people like that word scares people for some reason. Like, that word is so scary. It's because like a lot of people doesn't know what it actually fucking means.
No,
like I feel like a lot of people are actually just socialists, but they
did get a little bit of a chance to explain. Like he
did.
They said, what is socialism, and he said, well, my socialism is this and this and this, and of course listing all the good things that he wants to do. It is important to destigmatize that word. But I like how Bernie doesn't necessarily bring it up all the time. Like, he doesn't lie about his positions, but he doesn't always say, as a socialist, I'm a socialist, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is a socialist policy. He just makes good policies that people like, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I agree. Klobuchar also loved talking about, like, whenever she was talking, she loved, like, referencing the casino. Like,
right? What were those weird metaphors?
Yeah, weird. Yeah, like every time she talked, like, putting all your chips in on this, and like, for some reason this lady's getting a lot of fucking
to the Jewish fucking president candidate. Anti-Semitism.
Yeah, like another thing, like every time like the media tries to go in on Bernie, they're like, Bernie's a fucking anti-Semite, or like Bernie does this, Bernie that. Now it's Bernie is a sexist.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I'm just wondering what's the next thing they're gonna try to fuck Bernie on. Like, what is it gonna be next week?
Did I not say this when Corbyn was running for Prime Minister in the UK? Did I not say that they were gonna do the same exact thing to Bernie that they did to him? What's the first thing that they did to Corbyn? They tried to say, oh, Corbyn hates women, but that didn't stick. So they switched it to Corbyn hates Jews, and that one did stick, and it literally brought down the Labour Party in the UK because they had to spend so much time fighting against it in the media, being like, no, of course the Labour Party is not anti-Semitic. We're literally the one party, in fact, that is not trying to prejudice against people based on their skin color or their race or ethnicity. They're the one party that didn't, but because they had to focus so much attention on fighting that particular claim, it took a lot of their power away. And then I said that over a month ago that was going to happen to Bernie, and look what fucking happened. They got the women thing to stick on him, and but here's the good thing. It fucking backfired. Fuck these slimy snake fucks, dude.
For sure.
People love him, and they are super excited to vote for him, to work with him and for him, and no fucking bullshit narrative can stop that.
Yeah, I'm glad that like this hasn't backfired on Bernie's campaign, and that like it actually, I think, boosted it by even getting even more media coverage on Bernie.
Is bad coverage, baby.
Yeah. The other thing about the speaking times, Biden had the second lowest speaking time during this debate, and Steyer obviously with the least amount, because all he had to do was fucking agree with other people. Warren with the most, Sanders with the second most.
Yeah.
Klobuchar running just a little bit under Sanders. Pete Buttigieg. Honestly, I thought yeah, but I thought every time he spoke, he's a good speaker. I think he has he has his speaking skills.
He's good, but did you notice how often he talked about God and religion? That was weird. It felt so out of place for that debate. He was the only one that consistently did it. I mean, me too. Fair enough, but still, like it just felt so awkward. It was so forced. He was like, "And I believe that I don't want to quote because I forgot what he said exactly." But
I don't want to misquote anybody. Yeah, it's hard. It's honestly like pretty different to see. He's like super young. A very young candidate.
It definitely is weird seeing such like a fresh-faced young boy up there on stage.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this guy, look, he's like, compared to the other guy, he's like half of Bernie's age, and like probably half the age of anyone on the stage. I
mean, if he wasn't a fucking CIA plant, I would be excited to see younger people getting up on the debate stage, Anyway, David, do you have anything else to end on about this debate? Otherwise, I think we can move on.
No, other than fuck CNN.
Yeah, fuck
Let's go
CNN.
Bernie Sanders. Hopefully gets the DNC fucking
And fuck
nomination.
Snake Warren. You know, if she wins the nomination, I'm gonna begrudgingly vote for her. But fuck that snake. She had so much opportunity to shut that story down, and she actively chose not to. And I will never fucking trust her again for that specific reason.
Yeah, I mean, she just wants to advance her career.
Absolutely, it's such a snake fucking thing to do, and I don't know. It's one of them. Whatever. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, fuck CNN. I wanted to tell you a story about this guy that keeps coming into work. It's a very down to earth story, salt of the earth story.
Let's bring it back down to reality.
Yeah, this lovely working class man comes into my grocery establishment that I work at very often. His name is Buster, and he always comes in and he just like talks to me for like 20 minutes while I'm actively trying to work and like not really trying to like engage in conversation with him.
What do? Do you do like stock shelves or cashier?
Yeah. I stock shelves, like mostly like vegetables and produce and stuff. So I stock up vegetables and stuff, and Buster will come in and be like, "Hey, what's up, Caleb? How you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, man, what's up?" Shakes my hand and like I'm working, and he always comes in and tells me the same story about how he in 1970 he installed the like refrigerator units in the store that I work at. He always comes in and he tells me.
Does he only talk to you?
Yes, he only talks to me.
Really?
Yeah,
he
and
probably like sees himself in you.
He probably does, which is fucking terrifying. And he comes in and he just tells me this really long, like, it's always like 10 minutes long. It's always a story about all the specifications about how he puts in these things and how they have to be temperature controlled. And he always tells me, he's like, "Do you know how much these cost? They're $10,000 a unit." This time when he came in recently, he was telling me, and I answered his question. I was like, $10,000. He's like, "Yeah, can you believe that?" And I was like, "You've told me that before, right?"
He probably has like Alzheimer's and he forgets, dude.
I think he might or something, but it's kind of cute.
Like, this is like a new conversation every time.
Yeah, and every time, like, he also told me this news story last time he was here about this time where he was cleaning out something in the store and he like cut his finger and he got blood poisoning and like the veins in his arm were just jet black for like a week, and he was like, "Oh, it'll probably be fine." And then he went to the doctor and they said he had like less than 24 hours before he was gonna be dead. And I was like, Christ. What the fuck? Why would you tell me that story? And he's like, "So the moral of the story is keep your hands clean." And I was like, what the fuck?
Keep your hands clean, dude.
And then every time he's ready to leave, he goes, "Well, I'll let you get back to work." And then he sticks out his hand, and I go to grab it, and he goes, "Give me a good squeeze." And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong? And I get, I shake his hand firmly, and he's like, "Oh yeah, people don't."
A good squeeze?
Yeah, I give him a good squeeze, and he's like, "People don't do that anymore these days." I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, who has a limp handshake?
Honestly, it makes me so uncomfortable, to be honest. And I have really dried, cracky hands. Every time I like shake someone's hands, I'm super self-conscious about it. God, really? It's terrible. Yes. Yeah,
dude, my hands are like, I feel like my hands are on the smoother side.
My hands used to be buttery.
I don't have working class hands.
Yeah, I'm such a working class man.
Yeah, your hands are rough and calloused.
Yeah.
Honestly, since you bring that up, dude, I used to always go to Sunday church with my family because they always drag me along, and I don't know if you know this, but in for Catholics, there's a part in the mass where we shake each other's hands and say like peace.
Right.
Basically it's just like saying like, what's up, like, hey, how you doing? Right. And I will always remember this one old dude. I don't know if he did it on purpose because he was a dick, but I know he's done it to other people before. So like I go to shake his hand, and the guy yanks on my hand, and he like slams my arm up and down like really fucking hard, dude. And I was like, what the fuck? What is this? Why'd you do like this, fucking asshole? And then like I saw he does it the same thing to my fucking dad. And my dad just like has the most like shocked look on his face.
Is it like the Trump handshake thing where you like pull the
No,
hand?
It's like he fucking like takes your hand, squeezes as hard as he can, and just fucking shakes it up and down. Like shit, dude. Like holy fuck. Like
he loves
like,
Jesus.
Trying to like pull my arm out of my socket, dude. And I know the reason why I said I've known he's done this before because I've seen him like, you know, in mass shake someone else's hand and he does the same thing where he fucking yanks. I feel like he's like, oh, we're about to give peace. It's my time. It's my time to shake this dude's hand. And then I remember because I'm pretty sure he was like the guy was like, bro, why the hell did you just fucking like yank my arm undone? And then like he just like ignores him.
That's the most exciting part of his week. He wakes up on Sunday morning.
Every it's like I can't wait.
Puts a fresh
to fucking assault someone. Like it's like literally assault, dude. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like this guy literally like is trying to pull your arm out of the socket. I swear to God on my mom's life that what I'm telling you right now is the truth. It's kind of insane.
God,
but since we're on the handshaking topic right now,
yeah.
Something a little embarrassing. I've told you the story already. Something a little embarrassing happened when I was in class. You know, every week, every first week.
I just remember
every first week is class. You know, you gotta introduce yourself to everybody. You know, the same old cringe, right?
The icebreakers.
So you know, the first guy, you know, we have a pretty normal conversation. You know, I give him my life story. You know, he gives me his life story. And, we shake each other's hands. And I'm like, all right, that was a pretty good conversation. Cool guy, right? I move on to the next guy. This guy, you know, he has his hands like folded up, like, you know, like in his armpits. And, you know, I'm like, you know, say, hey, what's up? My name is David. And I reach out to shake his hand. And he reaches out his hand, you know, to, you know, I go to like, you know, shake his hand. And there was no hand there, but only a stub. So I shook his stub. And I was really embarrassed at first, but I tried to just like, you know, talk normally and like I didn't question it at all. And we just, you know, had a good conversation. And that was class. But then I messaged Caleb, like, Caleb, was that weird? Should I have done that? Like, I don't know. Like, it would have been bad. It would have been worse if I didn't shake his hand.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely would have been worse if you didn't. It's like that GIF where the guy tries to shake the hand of the bowman, but that doesn't have any
with no arms,
and he shakes his nub. God, it's just, I don't know. What is the correct, like, etiquette to do in that situation?
Yeah, like, do you even offer a handshake, or do you,
is it ableist to offer a handshake to someone with no hands?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I felt bad in the moment. But I think it was alright. I don't think they cared.
I feel like if you had no hand, you'd kind of be used to that, you know? Like, just kind of people making fools of themselves.
Yeah. I wonder how many times that's happened to them.
Probably too much. I feel bad for people with, like, very visible disabilities like that because people are totally callous. They just have no idea, like, how rude and weird they're being when they ask, like, weird questions. Especially kids. Have you ever had, have a kid, like, ask someone,
they love to, like
how did you lose your leg? Yeah. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I felt pretty bad, but then I just, you know, decided it was a normal interaction.
Yeah, I don't think you did anything wrong. If you made a big deal about it, it would have been weird.
Yeah. Like, oh, you don't have a hand. Shit, my bad.
That would have been worse. Bro, my bad. You should have let me know beforehand. Oh, sorry, that's an awkward fucking sticking point for you.
Should have not hit your hands, dude. I didn't notice.
But he drops his books. Anyway, you're like, oh, let me help you out.
Let me give you a hand. Oops. God.
Shit.
Anyway, Buster, cool guy. Sounds like a cool guy.
Yeah, he's cool, I guess. You know, one thing I found kind of weird was the fact that Trump actually defended Bernie Sanders on Twitter after the Warren feud that he had on CNN.
Yeah.
Because
Donald Trump Jr. as well.
Oh, really? I didn't even see the Don Jr. one. That's funny. Because, of course, like they both hate CNN, too. I feel like it's weird because both extreme, like, quote-unquote extreme. I don't consider Bernie extreme, but a lot of people do. Like, both sides of the quote-unquote extreme both hate CNN because it's fucking fake news, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Right-wingers hate CNN because they call Trump a white nationalist when he actually is. And left-wingers hate them because they dare to call Bernie Sanders a socialist.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of weird seeing them, like, take Bernie Sanders' side. Like I don't know if I wonder if there's any like alternative motives doing that. Like, they do that and Bernie doesn't get a nomination. Like, maybe this Trump guy isn't so bad.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know.
Unlikely,
I think that would be that would
unlikely.
be extremely unlikely.
Yeah,
I kind of
don't know if you saw the
dismiss-
poll.
Which one?
There's a poll about like if your candidate that you're supporting doesn't make the
Oh, then who
doesn't
would
make
you
the
vote for?
nomination,
Yeah.
who would you vote for? Would you like vote for against? Would you vote for Trump?
Right.
Basically, and like Bernie Sanders was like the the highest. Like they wouldn't vote for Trump and they would vote for whoever got the nomination. And I believe the person with the least amount, like who's saying they would vote for Trump, was Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, Biden's there.
I kind of reject the idea that Bernie Sanders supporters flipped to Trump. Like in 2015, maybe, because even though like he was running an explicitly white nationalist campaign, if you don't pay attention to the news, you might not necessarily understand that. You might not be politically engaged. And then if you're just angry at the world and like your Bernie Sanders like candidate did not get nominated, maybe I can see you voting for Trump. But it, like now especially
it was a whole different story. Like Hillary Clinton, no one liked her. Like she was just doing like everyone hated that she got the nomination.
Exactly.
And Donald Trump was still like a wild card. People didn't really know who he was. People even considered Donald Trump a Democrat, like a secret Democrat, because of some stuff he said back in the day, back in the early 2000s, maybe 90s.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always been incorrect because, I mean, even as far as, like, back to the Central Park 5, like, he was actively calling for the execution of, like, these innocent black teenagers because they were falsely accused of this crime that they didn't actually do. And, like, he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times to call for the execution of these kids. So, I mean, he's always been a white nationalist, warmonger ever since he was first squeezed out of his Brooklyn like cottage, you know what I mean? And it's always been obvious to anyone who's paying attention, but the worst part about democracy is that like 95% of people don't fucking pay attention.
Yeah, and now that he's like created a cult following, it's honestly scary. Like honestly, I worry for the next election if he does get if you asked me like a couple of 4 years ago, would I have thought an impeached president could run again and have a good chance getting back in office? I would have told you I don't believe that at all. I don't think that's possible. But Trump is,
that's a good point, scary. Actually. Yeah, I've never really thought about that. I always forget that he's impeached because it just has no real effect on anything.
Yeah.
It seems like such an oversight to me.
Yeah. It's honestly kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, just the fact that an impeached president can continue to operate as if nothing has happened. It's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, and throw us in a war.
Yeah, if he wants to. Man, that Iran shit. God, we're lucky that went how it did, And God, how quickly did people flip and just, like, start talking shit about Iran, though? The second that it was clear we weren't going to war.
Screaming eagles in this country. Is that what those people who are like warmongers, basically?
Yeah,
and, like,
war
love
hawks.
when we go to war.
Yeah,
Warhawks,
man.
Basically, the people who just fucking love when we go to war. It's like, I can't. Who's the next country we're going to war with?
They love it when we're on the brink of war too. Like they really get off on that. Like their dicks are so hard when we're like about to fucking unload on these brown people. Exactly. Yeah. It really is though.
We're fucking edging these fucking guys.
God, man, it's crazy.
Can't wait to go over there and kill some brown people.
Yeah, speaking of like some Trump stuff though, I just learned the other day about this China trade deal. I think it was yesterday that he signed it actually. Have you heard anything about this?
No, go ahead and explain it.
Trump signed a deal with China which basically was an agreement to purchase like a $200 billion of American goods for China to purchase that number of American goods over the next like X number of years. But the interesting which of course is like a good thing on the like ostensibly it's a good thing because a lot of like farmers that have been severely impacted by Trump's tariffs are going to have a lot of relief from this trade bill.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
the interesting thing is that a large amount of the money is secret. Like, the things that they're purchasing are not known to the public. And conspiracy theory in me wants to say that the reason that is because they're investing largely in the fossil fuel industries. Because of course the White House would not want that to be known if that were true. But
Yeah.
I really worry, and it seems to me that would be something that the White House would do, or this administration would do, is sell a fuck ton of natural gases and stuff like that to China, when really we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if we'll
Honestly.
ever find out what exactly it is they're buying, and I am interested to see the effects of this trade bill as well, because I obviously don't like to see Americans suffer, especially like people like farmers who literally grow things that we need to eat. But at the same time,
Feed
like,
the country. Yeah.
right. But at the same time, just like Bernie Sanders said in the debate, I never agree with signing a trade bill that does not include, anti-climate change, considerations at the very
Yeah.
least. And I think that it was very smart of Bernie Sanders to say that, and of course Tom Steyer agreed with him, just like he did with everyone else.
Yeah. Oh fuck.
But yeah, that's interesting. So we'll see how that China trade bill ends up, I guess. But I'm worried about it, and we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, but what's going on in Australia is honestly horrible. Like their country's I'm pretty sure it's still on fire. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, is it right?
It is, yeah.
Just like these Australian wildfires have infected in so many people, like has killed so much wildlife, and honestly, like I'm worrying day by day as that goes on.
Over a
because
billion animals have died. Over a billion.
It doesn't only affect Australia. It affects first of all, everyone who trades with Australia. It affects a lot of citizens. It affects other countries. It affects the global climate. Like that ash and like stuff like that is landing in polar ice caps in New Zealand. That's melting them quickly, increasing water levels. So like this is affecting everybody.
Absolutely. And like, not to mention all of the like animals and like plants and species that are quite literally being burned
gone.
to extinction because of
Yeah.
our hubris. It's
Yeah,
very
just seeing
horrific.
some of the before and after images of like the wildfire, just disgusting.
Yeah. Did you read the headline today that came out?
No.
They had their first rain in New South Wales for a long time, but the rain actually washed the ash from the wildfires into like the bodies of water around that area and killed over 500,000 fish.
Oh my god. It's not like their water already is bad. Like, I don't know if you heard, but the Great Barrier Reef
Right.
is basically like dead. Like all the chloral bleaching that's happened, and like it can't sustain its like life anymore.
Yeah, I think that's for a different
It's-
reason, but like this is not gonna help.
because of the temperature of the water. Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it's honestly just sad.
It's one of the saddest things really I've seen as far as like climate disasters go. I mean,
Which is horrible.
The Amazon rainforest burning is probably a close second, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that in a while, so maybe that's
Yeah,
okay
but
now.
compared to this, compared to this is like it's on a whole new scale,
Right.
and it's bad for I forget out which cities is like one of the bigger. I believe it's Sydney. They gain most of the revenue through tourism. So like, how is this wildfire going to affect the tourism business in Sydney or Melbourne or wherever city is? I'm sorry, I don't really know the.
We're
what the cities
Americans,
of
okay?
Australia. Yeah.
We don't know.
We apologize. Well, I apologize at least.
But yeah, I get what
You
you're
might be
saying.
like an expert.
Like the long-term effects of this have yet to be seen, and it's going to be devastating, and a lot of areas may never recover. And also, I think we have to just get used to the fact that this is the new normal. Like, these kind of things are going to start happening more and more often. They're going to happen more severely, more frequently, and the death toll is going to continue to rise.
Especially when the water starts rising, and then people are going to get displaced, and they're not going to have areas to live.
The number one
and
issue.
More immigration is going to happen.
Yep, that's it. That's right. Right, what you just said. Immigration. That's the number one issue with climate change. The economic and climate refugees is what they call them, is going to be the biggest issue, and that's going to be the cause of so much strife and conflict in the next 50 to 100 years. I guarantee it. And you heard it here first on the Left in the South podcast. Of course, I'm not the first person to say that, but I'd like to be on the record.
Yeah. So I think that brings us to the philosophy question of the day, or the podcast at least, of the week. You can go ahead and bring it, because you were the one who wanted to discuss about it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so I saw this edgy Reddit thread, and since last episode we talked a lot about women, and I felt like that was fun because talking about controversial things is fun.
Talk about women again,
making people mad. Yeah, so let's talk about women again. So this is actually not just specifically about women. This is about both, or all genders, regardless of how you identify. But basically the idea behind the question is, does a person who is a transgender person have a moral obligation to disclose their status as a transgender person to any partners that they have? So for example, let's say that you David, are a female to male transgender.
I'm a woman.
And
yes.
You're wait, what?
Yeah, I'm a woman. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Okay, yeah, male to female.
Wait. Yeah. Wait,
Let's say so you're a male. Do you identify as male, David?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now you identify as male. Let's say, for sake of argument,
correct,
you are a transgender and you choose to identify now as a female, and you have a sex change operation. You look like a societal female. You pass as a female. No one doubts that you're a female, quote unquote. You know what I mean? As far as judgment from society goes, are you obligated then to tell any partners that you have in the future that you were at one point a man?
I honestly, I believe this is a very tough conversation to tackle, but
that's part of the fun, man. I want to hear.
Yeah, I believe that it's something you should discuss, but for me, I think it's pretty easy to tell if someone's transgender.
Really? What do you mean?
There's all the telltale signs of I don't know, unless they have lots of body modifications, broad shoulders and stuff like that. What if they do
though? What if they're post-transition and they've taken the hormones and they've had the surgeries and stuff?
Yeah, honestly, that shit's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, and there are surgeries today that can photos make you look
you cannot tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
The difference.
I mean, if you want a great example of that, you can literally watch ContraPoints. If you go back on her YouTube channel, you can watch her transition in real time from male to female. And if you look at her most recent videos, she would pass as a female. She looks like a person who was born as a female now as her current self, So yeah. I think that as far as saying you can tell, I really don't think that's true. I think that you'd be surprised. But what if you can't tell? Let's say that you're a male to female transition and you're so convincingly, quote unquote, female that no one even questions the fact that you were trans at some point. What then? Do you think that you would be obligated to tell them?
If I was that person in that situation, I would tell them. But if I was in the opposite situation, if I was the person who was with this trans person, honestly, I wouldn't care. Because I would date a trans person if they were a woman, if they say they're a woman, they're a woman. I'm attracted to the women.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's dangerous that if they don't tell.
Why is that?
Because I feel like there's a lot of people who get very upset over something like this, and they feel betrayed, and they'll get very angry in that moment if they're not.
Oh, you mean dangerous, physically dangerous?
Yeah, physically dangerous. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
They might get hurt and stuff like that. So I think it's
right.
This is something that you should bring up before even meeting this person,
or before trying to, especially before having to do any sexual relationship. Yeah, absolutely.
Just to protect yourself.
Yeah. I want to talk about the framing of the question a little bit, because in my mind I kind of find the framing of the question actually a little bit transphobic, and that's really why I wanted to have this conversation too, because when I saw this question on Reddit, I had the same thought. The headline, the title of the thread on Reddit was literally should a trans person have to tell their sexual partners that they're trans? like should they be morally obligated to do so? I really almost see that as transphobic, because by saying that, you're sort of saying like there's something different about trans people that means that they need to like identify themselves, you know? Something about that just doesn't sit right with me. It seems to be kind of
it seems
thing.
weird. Like,
you would never say that about like a regular. What if it was a man, or what if it's a woman that like looks looks manly, doesn't look traditionally feminine? Like, is she obligated to say to someone hitting on her, like, oh, by the way, just in case you don't know, I actually have a vagina? You know what I mean? Like, of course not. That's insane. And I feel like even just asking that question kind of is underlying transphobia. But also, to be fair, I also agree with you. I think that, like, practically speaking, you probably should just tell people, because it's best to be honest. And, like, if you want to, like, create a relationship with someone, lying about something that serious, like something about your life that's that serious, I don't think is good to lie about. But it shouldn't be because you're worried that they're going to judge you. It should be because you're willing to confide in them and tell them something about yourself, rather than doing it to protect yourself because they might, beat you up if they find out you're trans, because that's absurd.
I don't want to like say that I've heard stories, but I'm pretty sure I've heard stories of like people getting hurt.
Oh, I absolutely have. Yeah. Because like people will go to bars or whatever, and they find out that the person that they're trying to sleep with or whatever is male to female. It tends to be a man trying to have sex or something with a male to female transgender female, and then they get extremely upset when they find out that the person's transgender, and they like try to beat them up or fight them or something like that. Some like transgender people get murdered all the time for this shit. Like, people find out they're trans and just like kill them and lynch them and stuff. Like, it is a seriously dangerous identification. Yeah. So I don't blame people for not being so
honestly, excited. It's bad because like, it's very unsafe for you to have any physical, like, let's say you just want to go to the bar and like hook up with someone, right? Obviously, you don't want to fuck someone who's unable to consent. But let's say like you're trying to go somewhere and like hook up with someone, right? And like there's a possibility of you getting hurt just because of you are male to female, or even female to male. Honestly, it's just sad.
It is sad, just because you were born in the wrong body, so to speak.
Yeah.
And like, as far as transgender people go, I really just don't understand this society's obsession with them right now. It seems to me that transgender people are kind of the new gay people, because before, like, it was never taboo before 2015 even to say that, like, for conservatives to just blatantly say, like, I don't believe that gay people should be allowed to get married because of marriage is between a man and a woman. But like, ever since 2015, when the Supreme Court officially legalized gay marriage, it kind of has petered out. It's kind of fizzled out.
I can't believe that was only like 5 years ago, dude.
Right? Yeah.
Like 6 years ago, gays could not have gotten married in most states.
In almost every state. Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's honestly insane. But I'm glad that we're getting more and more accepting of people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like a big marriage guy. I don't necessarily agree with marriage at all, period.
Yeah, I don't think marriage is necessary.
But if regular people can get, if straight people, not regular people, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. If straight people can get married, then gay people should be able to get married.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Anyway, yeah, I think we agree. That's interesting. I don't know. I think if you're trans, probably keep it to yourself just so you don't get lynched. Yeah. But also, like, be honest with your partners when possible.
Yeah, and honestly, like this should be like one of the first things you say to another person, to just even weed them out. Especially if it's online, it's a little more safer, obviously. Yeah. If you're online talking to someone, like, this should be like one of the first things they should know, so you can like fucking weed them out as soon as possible if they don't, accept you or don't want to,
Right. It's sad, but I think you're right, because like, if you want to be safe and be sure that the person you're talking to actually is worth talking to, if you just drop that right away, you'll be able to know right away if it's worth engaging with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It sucks because normal
like interactions
this is something
between normal women or men that don't have to well, we say normal, like traditional.
They know what we mean. We're not being transphobic. We're using the word normal
with
to describe
vagina or penis.
Exactly. We're naturally born women. Like, that's what we're using that word to describe. It's not transphobic. Everyone knows that. But anyway, I agree. Like, it sucks because we have to prescribe this to specifically trans people just because people are so bigoted. But I think that's just really just the reality of the situation.
So, yeah, but that was a good discussion. Of course, you know, to the takeaway from that is, fuck people who don't believe in you or accept who you are. And to protect yourself, obviously, you should probably disclose that you are transitioning or transitioned to another gender, just to be safe.
Just to be safe, yeah, 100% agree. Like, you shouldn't have to, but you should just to be safe.
And so finally, dude, it's been, I believe, it's been a month and 2 weeks this podcast has been running. Around 30 people have entered, and we finally chosen a winner for the Blue Snowball microphone giveaway.
I'm excited. Drum roll.
Yeah. Drum roll, please. And the winner of the Blue Snowball microphone is at Lime Glacier XL. Congratulations.
Hooray!
Yeah, I've done a little dig into, obviously, the person who won the giveaway. Just, you know, a little snoopy like that. And Nosie's also on a podcast called 40 Fingers Live. They seem to do their podcast on YouTube. Listen to a little bit on the podcast to see who won it. And yeah, I can agree that he does need this snowball for to improve his quality of
his podcasting future.
So yeah, congratulations on winning. You know, best of luck. Hopefully you and your friends have a better quality podcast now since you upgraded your microphone.
Absolutely. And if you guys are sad that you didn't win the giveaway, don't worry, because David and I are actually planning on making these semi-regular. We're not going to start one in the next episode, but maybe like in the next few episodes we're going to discuss another giveaway to do. It might be something a little cheaper, It might be something a little more expensive. We have no idea yet. We're still going to talk about it. But if you want to win more stuff, follow us on Twitter, keep up to date with the podcast, because that'll be the first place to find out about the giveaways. So
yeah, and if you want these giveaways to be even more regular, support us on Patreon.
Yep.
We have a $1, $3, $5, and if you're feeling it very gusto, a $10 tier on our Patreon. And, you know, showing us that, you know, monetary support really helps us to keep on going. And then maybe one day we can quit our full-time jobs and do this as a regular thing.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But other than that, follow us on Twitter. Personal Twitters, I'm at rage_pilot.
And I'm at Dougley Thinks. And links to those can be found on our SoundCloud account.
Yeah. And this has been Left in the South, episode 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.